We'll get started, and before we move ahead, I will begin with a couple of basic housekeeping. So I know, we have been doing all of these virtual rooms for about 2-3 years now, so everybody kind of knows this, but just spare me a moment before we go through this regular housekeeping. So we urge everyone to participate. So turn your cameras on and come off mute if you can. And since this is a live recording, so this will show up on the live recording if you come off mute. This is a recorded session, and we will send you an email post the event with the recordings of the session. So don't worry, if you're not able to complete it. So we have got you covered there. Write in the chat. We are looking forward to hear what your thoughts are. If you have any feedbacks, if you have any questions for our partners at ServiceNow, so write in the chat and let us know what you think. And did it even happen if it wasn't on social media? So keep up with us on social and tag Powerfly, tag ServiceNow, and let us know what you thought about this event. So with that being said, we'll move forward. And so let me introduce you. ServiceNow needs no introduction, but ServiceNow powers the world, and their technology solutions power the world, and they are regarded as one of the Forbes preferred partners for 2021. So make sure to visit, to follow ServiceNow on Powerfly to be on top of their values, how the inside scoop is at ServiceNow, and get to know more about their open roles and opportunities. So make sure that you follow ServiceNow. So with that being said, we will move forward and we'll introduce our amazing panel of speakers. So first off, we have Prajwala. Welcome, Prajwala. Prajwala is a senior manager under cloud applications, a part of global cloud services, which takes care of product infrastructure services, which are always available for ServiceNow's customers. Her previous experience includes software development, DevOps, site reliability engineering in the cloud world across various platforms and technologies. She's passionate about building scalable solutions that ensures customers have reliable access to ServiceNow and their services. So welcome, Prajwala, and can you tell us a bit more about what you do?
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for introducing me to this audience. I'm Prajwala. So I lead a group of engineering team, which is a part of the global cloud services inside ServiceNow, and we take care of infrastructure fabric of our the SaaS platform or a product that we are into business. I have a close to 17 years of experience, and I have tried various disciplines within the engineering. Started my career as a software developer, and then moved into various roles across the technologies and platform and the in the enterprise and the products world. So I also recently completed 2 leadership programs, executive programs, and I lead the diversity community in India. I'm looking forward to this awesome discussion.
Absolutely. Great. Looking forward to that. And thank you so much, Prajwala. So moving off, we have Nick Kelly. Nick is currently the Regional Director of Core Customer Support at ServiceNow, leading 8 support teams in providing world-class technical support for ServiceNow customers. His previous roles include Operations Manager, Infrastructure and Application Support Manager roles at one of the Big 4 accounting firms, as well as consulting and application support management roles in banking and government. He's passionate about tech and ensuring his teams are delivering a great experience to customers through our support capabilities, and they get the most out of the ServiceNow products. So welcome, Nick, and just can you please shed a bit of light more about what you do at ServiceNow, because this is just a little bit of intro into what you do. So yeah, just make sure to educate our audience more. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you very much for the introduction and also the opportunity to speak to everyone and meet all these wonderful people. So very grateful for the opportunity. So yeah, a bit about what I do at ServiceNow. So I look after the customer support organization in APJ. That includes Japanese support, our language support, but all the customer support teams in APJ. So in terms of a very brief summary of what we do, really we're accountable for making sure the customers get a great experience when they have an issue with the ServiceNow platform. So, we are that front side that the customer reaches out to, and we're wherever possible trying to solve those problems for them as quickly as possible, and engaging teams like Prajwala's to try and help them whenever we need, like SRE, our site reliability engineering teams, but also our development teams as well, where we need to. But yeah, all about trying to deliver a great experience for our customers.
Thank you so much, Nick. So with that being said, we will move now to the Q&A session or Q&A portion of the session. We have got some amazing questions pre-submitted from all of our participants. And for all of our participants who are joining us live, please feel free to make the most of this opportunity and ask your questions live. We have we have our speakers here, and they'll love to take your questions live. So with that being said, I'll move over the first question that we have, which is basically could you share some tips on how to identify our personal strength when we have a complete lack of confidence, or there's a bit of lack of confidence or connect from what one's perceived beliefs are. So just let me know more about, how do you deal with imposter syndrome in your daily lives? And since you are the leaders of your domain, so how have you managed this throughout your professional career? So Prajwala, would you like to take this first?
I can start with that. So I think you have asked two things there. How do we identify personal strengths, right? And I learned this over a period of time. So self-confidence, comes within, but there will be always forces outside which will try to pull you down. But listen to your inner strength, right? There is always a drama queen in mind that plays a role to put you down or pull you down, but be your own cheerleader, right? And build your support system around you. Who can help you to motivate you and who will, ready to invest positive side of you, and let it be on the professional side or personal side. And this is where I think the allies help a lot, bring allyship into life and be part of the communities where you can seek help from others where, who are in a similar situation. So don't self-doubt too much, and believe in your strengths always, and try to apply when the opportunities arise. That's on the identifying personal strengths. And how do you find imposter syndrome? Is understand that as a reality, and realize that you be stick to facts, not to fear to fight against this kind of biases that imposter syndrome that are around, and seek for help around whom you can talk to. And that's what I say, imposter syndrome is a reality. And it comes from largely because the differences, it comes from age, race, sexuality, or religion, or competencies that we always try to evaluate. Bring your own self and believe in what you wanted to do, love what you wanted to do, but not being taught to what to love, but celebrate what you are.
Celebrate what you are. I love that nugget, Prajwala. So Nick, would you like to add something there?
Yeah, sure. I guess to the first point, identifying your personal strengths, I think that really comes with experience and feedback. I think the more you do things, and as you grow in your career, I think the more you understand what you're good at and maybe what some of your weaker areas are. And obviously you play towards those strengths and try and work on those areas that you're weaker on to develop those over time. But you certainly get a sense of that over time as you work more. And also that becomes with what you enjoy as well. Like generally the things you enjoy doing, you become stronger at and more passionate about, and that sort of helps shape your career direction as well. The feedback piece, I think that's also really important. Sometimes you may not see things that you need improvement on. I think that's why feedback is so important sometimes, for people to give you some honest feedback around some things that you may not necessarily do well. But also the flip side is, and often we concentrate a lot on constructive feedback, but the positive feedback is also equally as important, to say, you're really good at this. you should be focusing on this. Is this something you want to continue to do and grow in this particular area? So I think feedback is also really important in helping you identify what your personal strengths are. The imposter syndrome one, really difficult question, because to be honest, I don't think you really ever get away from that sometimes. Certainly personally, I don't. I've felt it in a lot of roles, but I think what Prajwala said is really true. You've really just got to be able to focus on what you can control, and that's really what, how you execute, what you need to do as part of your role and how you deliver on your outcomes. That's really all that you can control. As long as you work inside that and not focus too much on what outside people think, I think you'll always do well at whatever you're doing. But yeah, that's really where you have to be able to focus that control. Once you start worrying about what other people are thinking, you really lose a bit of control of what you're doing.
Absolutely. Love that piece of advice there, that, focusing on feedback and just don't think that much of what other people are thinking. Love that. And, just diving down on this a little bit. So the topic is women in tech industry, right? And discovering your personal strength. So according to several surveys, all of the things that you mentioned that come after you have entered the workforce. But according to several surveys, oftentimes women, discourage themselves from applying to even even after just looking at the JDs, they get into this, this knack of if they're not getting 100% of the skills matched, most women don't even apply to that. So what would be your take, or what would be your advice to somebody who is currently seeking new job, and every time they read a job description, they doubt whether they'll be able to complete those tasks successfully? So how do they get over, that mindset? Okay, I need to check off all these JD items, job description item to be eligible for that job. How does somebody come out of, that lack of confidence, or that feeling that they lack competence? So yeah.
Sure, I'm happy to go first there. So I think one of the things that's really important for candidates to know, and as an interviewer, someone who recruits a lot of people and does a lot of interviews, when I post a job ad or read a CV, I'm never looking for someone who matches 100%, because realistically they don't exist. So we'll always have a few key things that we're looking for. So even if you don't tick all those boxes, you may still be perfect for that role. Really, in essence, what I'm looking for when I'm hiring someone is someone who's willing to work hard and looking for opportunities to sort of learn more and progress, because they're generally the people that, even if they have one of 5 requirements on a job application list, that I know that they will work hard to pick up the other 4. That's more the skill sets that people are looking for, or certainly from my point of view that I'm looking for. Very rare to find someone that ticks every sort of box on a job requirement list.
Prajwala, would you like to add something there?
Yeah, so I recently learned this thing during one of the study, that it's a behavioral concept, I think. It's been said that, women would give a shot only when she is confident 90% or above, but whereas a man, give a shot when a person is confident but about 30% of performing. That's a study. That's the statistical thing. It's in there. But I would say, don't let self-doubt get in the way. Never stop learning. Create and own your own career plans. Collaborate with friends and colleagues. Talk about it. And find good support systems. Find good mentors who can drive positively and who can advise you to, start your career, help you grow and where you are.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Prajwala and Nick, for those wonderful insights for somebody who is looking to get into a tech industry and, who are on the crossroads they're thinking whether or not am I a good fit for this role. So thank you so much. And I believe this must have helped them with their queries. So moving on, in my personal opinion, many women are overachievers. So how can women move past this mentality and feel proud of their work while maintaining a healthy work-life balance? And tell us more about, the people stack at ServiceNow, and how does ServiceNow ensure that all of its team members, are equipped with everything to put their best foot forward and put their best work day in and day out?
I can add my experience. So I'm here close to 5 years at ServiceNow, and I think we're continuously and constantly and consciously, I think we are putting this effort to encourage women to bring in or grow up in their roles. There are various programs that are happening inside ServiceNow, and there are communities where, encourage people who will create the culture of leaning on each other and who can support, advise, and mentor, right skill set and right leadership skills that a person is having with. So I would say, it's a daily practice, in my opinion, that we are doing it at ServiceNow, and we do have all the policies and programs in place that let it be hiring, let it be career path growth, let it encouraging someone to upskill their leadership qualities and all of that. It's happening through various programs inside, and we do celebrate each of these things. And it's truly appreciative, I would say. It's based on opportunities that are created based on the strengths and skills of a person, not because of anything else.
Love that. Nick, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, I think ServiceNow, has matured a lot from that sort of startup type of company where a lot of these processes and sort of policies aren't very mature, to now being a much bigger sort of corporate structure organization. You can see that the maturity and the policies and procedures are now in place, and they're doing, over the past sort of, I've been at ServiceNow almost 6 years. I'd say in the last 4, you can see a real push on training around things like diversity and inclusion. They're really putting a massive effort in more training around that sort of area. But one of the strengths that I've seen since I've joined ServiceNow is there is a huge amount of training that goes into people. Certainly in the customer support area, around giving them all the skills that they need to succeed at their roles, but also hopefully presenting them with opportunities to change roles if they want to, to find what they're passionate about. Is this the right role for them? What are the opportunities outside? And there are just so many opportunities, not only just at ServiceNow, obviously, but in technology, to sort of really find what you are passionate about, what are your strengths, and then work towards those, and hopefully find the role that's right for you.
Absolutely. So, from the conversation that I've had with you, and, from this answer as well, I can gauge that you really love your tenure at ServiceNow, and, you really love, the trajectory that ServiceNow has traversed in the last 5-6 years that you were associated with ServiceNow. So I'd love to know, how does your day look like, and, what's the favorite part of your work, that lightens up your day? So, Nick, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. Yeah, look, I think one of the things, ServiceNow is the first software company I'd ever worked for. So previously, most of my working life had been at banks or accounting firms, big corporate organizations like that. And one of the things that I was always challenged with at those organizations is that IT isn't, which is what I'm really passionate about and what I do, isn't a really core part of their organization. It's seen as something they have to do as part of something else, or a cost almost. We have to do it, we have to spend money on it. So you never get that sense of the culture and the passion outside of the IT organization in a company like that. What really struck me when I moved to ServiceNow, one of the main reasons I did move to ServiceNow, is the culture. People are so passionate about the product itself, the platform. The whole company is that IT platform, and everyone is sort of striving towards that same goal of making that platform successful, making our customers enjoy using it and successful through using the platform. And that's really something you can tangibly see, that how your role contributes to something bigger, which I probably didn't see at other organizations. So you get a real sense that you're contributing towards a greater purpose. Best part of my day, look, it's hard to say. One of the best parts of leadership for me is around seeing other people succeed. So, seeing people grow through their journeys at ServiceNow, from when maybe starting as an engineer, going through into a management stream or something like that. I really enjoy that part of the role, and seeing people progress and being really successful at their roles.
Love that, Nick. Prajwala, how does your day look like? And what's your favorite part of the day at your work at ServiceNow?
Right. And I would say, when you are in enterprise world, which is very competitive, and when you have a growing customer base, and when you are marketing towards your big goals for the business, and when you are given an opportunity to be part of the vision or create the impact to the business or drive the change or be a decision maker, help people grow or drive or lead with empathy. That's what I like about my job here, right? And my leadership philosophy has been grow and let people grow. And while you are bringing your strengths to play value to your business, that's what I like about. And it's just not about the day job that I do it, but there are a lot of other things that happens here, which evaluates me or elevates me as a person to do my best of every day by helping to other communities or people who are struggling to grow or people who need time to invest in their career path journey. I think those are all rest of the opportunities, I think.
Love that. And before we move forward, for all of our participants, this is your chance to get real with the team of ServiceNow. So what are you waiting for? Just, if there's any question, any queries that you have, just pop down in the chat and, we'll make sure that our partners at ServiceNow answer those queries. So make use of this opportunity. Fill out the chats, and if you're feeling particularly brave today, you can even come off mute and use the raise a hand feature that's available on the bottom bar of the Zoom, and you can come off mute and ask the questions directly to our speakers. So with that being said, I have another question from one of our participants. They're saying that I'm required to wear a lot of hats at work, but when it comes to reviews for my employer, my employer only focuses on the work that falls under my current title. How do you recommend addressing this issue with my manager? I don't want him to believe that I'm not invested in this company. So, wow, that's a meaty question. Who would like to go first?
Nick, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So I think with anything like that, I think you can set the tone of what those catch-ups are with your manager. So I think it's important not to have the confidence to talk about your successes as well. Don't be shy. When you are talking about, firstly you've got to understand I guess your career development and where you want to go and what your goals are. But outside of that, if you're talking about successes of additional work you've done outside of that, don't be afraid to bring that up, and maybe have someone send you an email. CCing your manager on saying, well done on this work or whatever. People are often very, myself included, very reluctant to sort of, what you say, blow your own trumpet in terms of celebrating your own successes. But, there's nothing wrong in sort of highlighting great work that you do, because realistically, all of that is going to contribute to your name being sort of thrown around when opportunities come up and say, such and such did this, they did this extra work for this project. Why don't we get them to help out with this one as well? So you're only doing yourself a disservice if you're not talking about the good work that you are doing as well.
Yeah, love that input. Over to you, Prajwala.
Yeah. So the way I managed it, and this is my experience again, you can have your own little journal kind of a thing, just to retrospect on what you are doing exactly in your role. Is it something that your role demands, or is it something outside of your role that you are spending towards, and what value that it brings into the organization? And be open to have those conversations with your line managers and seek opinions and suggestions from them. And if possible, add some data and have your allies speaking about what value you are bringing in performing those kinds of activities, which are important for organization level.
Love that input, Prajwala. And so moving on to the next question. So this question ties up to one advice that we previously touched down upon. So Nick, you previously mentioned the benefit of asking for feedback and getting into that feedback as quickly as possible. So this participant's question is, what role does feedback play in this journey of discovering our personal strengths, and how can we frequently ask for feedback without feeling like a burden?
Yeah, sure. So I think, as I said earlier, feedback to me is one of the most important tools for anyone at any level to develop. Not just a leadership position. I mean, anyone from any level of the organisation. Without it, it's really difficult to gauge how you're doing outside, I guess, your own mindset of how you feel you're tracking. But there's, most companies now have performance cycles. So for the year, your performance is tracked, and then you have a conversation at the end of the year around how you're doing in terms of that. So there's nothing worse than getting to the end of that year and getting some feedback right at the end of the year to say that you've been doing something, or maybe not the way you should have, or you hadn't been doing something. So it's really important to get that feedback as frequently as you can from as many different people as you can. So what I mean by that is, you should be having a regular one-on-one with your manager or coach to talk about feedback, to get that from them, but also your peers. You shouldn't be afraid to reach out to your peers to get feedback to say if they see anything that you should be improving on or anything that you're doing well, just to give you a guide, or I guess, of what you should continue doing or what you should stop doing or things you need to change. But also, as a manager, you should also be looking at getting feedback from your directs as well. And that can be really important in terms of the way you're communicating. Is that not being effective? A lot of things that they can tell you that can really improve the way you're communicating with the team. And that, obviously, that feedback gives you two things. One, it lets you know, helps you to determine your strengths. As I said before, if someone's telling you that you're really good at something, you're doing well, you're more likely to continue it and grow that as a strength as well. But the other side as well is that can tell you areas that you need to improve on. That can be things like communication techniques, the way you're doing a particular task, if you're not on the right track. So overall feedback to me is one of the most important learning areas for anyone at any level.
Absolutely. Prajwala, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, totally echo with what Nick said. If you want to be a better version of yourself, I think feedback works. It always helps me to perform better, that provided that you need to have that, the growth mindset, open for a feedback, and have right people or identify right people to ask for a feedback. It would always help to identify the strengths, gaps, blind spots, but, always reflect on comments. And, you can ask the feedback to anybody, not necessarily your line leadership kind of a thing, but who can help you understand your strengths is very important.
Absolutely.
But the only other thing I'd add there is, you often see really good leaders ask for feedback. So I know, the person I work for now at ServiceNow, they frequently ask me for feedback as well, which is something I learned at ServiceNow. I'd never had people more senior than me ask for feedback from me. Why would they want to hear from me on on anything? So that to me is also a really good indication. That to me was really sort of comforting to understand that, it doesn't matter what level you are, you still want to learn, you want to improve, you want to do things differently.
Love that. Absolutely. Feedback is a two-way street. So, just diving down a bit deeper into this, you all are stellar at your jobs, and you're the leaders of your field. But for somebody who's starting out, what are some tips? Let's say you had to give an advice to your 10-year younger self, what would that be? And for someone who is starting out in this industry, how could they find mentorship? Because people are often scared, to break out of that cocoon of comfort. So how should somebody break out of their comfort zone and, maybe ask more people for feedback, be that mentorship? How can we be open without having the fear of judgment? And how did you, in your own careers, find that perfect balance for yourselves? So, Prajwala, maybe we can start with you.
I would say, first of all, embrace your strengths and individuality, right? And consistency is key to success for your goals and vision. Believe in what you are doing. Right. And in some of the organizations, the mentorship or any kind of such programs are very structured. In some of the organizations, it's not yet there, but it's okay. You need to identify right people who can stand by with you to help you and who can be your advocate in good and bad things. Identify those people, right? And talk about it. Go with the open agenda, what you wanted to learn from them, or what you wanted to, give an advice for you to grow in your career. That's very important for you to continue in those discussions. And even though if there are no structured programs, it's okay. You identify your, mentors within the organization, or sometimes it helps to be having mentors outside the organization as well, because they see you in a different perspective, right? And and when you set up this, set of goals or agenda, and you wanted to talk about it, and you wanted to figure out what is the best point of what you have to give in your job, as that's what you need to keep it as your end goal. Have your career plans and align your discussions with your career plans. That's piece of advice. And I would say, in that aspect, ServiceNow have got a lot of mentoring programs. There are structured mentoring programs where people can go figure out mentors within the organization, cross organizations. And we do have a speed mentoring, which is people who couldn't sign into this kind of structured programs, they can still identify the speed mentoring, who can have a quick conversation and talk about what they are into and keep the advices or give the thought about it. So that's how we are practicing it.
Yeah, love that input. Over to you, Nick. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I agree with Prajwala. It's mentorship like feedback, I think, is really good, really important tool for career development. A couple of things that stand out for mentorship, I think, as part of your career development plan, you really have to have that lined up first before you start looking at mentors. I think when you want to speak to a mentor, you really need to have a clear outline in your head of where you want to go, the things you're interested in, your development plan, where you'd like to be in the year, 2 years, 5 years. What are those goals you've got? Is there anything standing in your way, and what are the gaps? I guess, what do you need to address? So have some clear questions that you'd want to ask a mentor, advice that you'd want to get for them, and really have that ahead of time before you start speaking to a mentor. But as she said, it's, we have a structured mentor program here at ServiceNow, but what I would always encourage people to do is reach outside your normal sphere of contacts as well, to get some useful mentors as well, just to get a broad range of experiences and advice, and a different perspective on things as well. So often that can help with different areas that you're interested in that some people may not have experience in, but others will. Look for those, and you can never have too many mentors. I think the more senior you get, the better it is to sort of have different mentors across the organization.
Absolutely. Love that input. So moving on, on this question, on this topic of advocating for oneself, we have a question from one of our participants. So any tips on how to be more vocal about the value I add to the company? I'm confident about my worth, but I have a terrible time advocating for myself. So how should that person move forward?
Yeah, look, I think that's a common problem, is that confidence and how you bring that up. I guess, each person should be having regular catch-ups with their coach or mentor. It's always a good idea, and it's not bragging or anything, just to talk about the work that you are doing. So, bring that up in your one-on-ones and say, look, this is the work I've done. This is the value I think it's added. It's done X, Y, and Z. Back it up with data wherever you can, to show the value of what you're doing, and just keep reinforcing that in those conversations, so that it's always front of mind for that person when they're speaking to you. Oh, I remember that such and such did that. That's really good. So we'll play a part in those conversations over time.
Absolutely. Prajwala, would you like to add something here?
Yeah, I think this is one of the common problems. And I think what you need to do is practice, right? Okay. You need to find out the forums, or you need to find out those, places where you need to represent your work. You have to be your own advocate. Nobody will take your voice, right? Show up, talk about your success. And that's where, you can take the feedback, or your support system, or your team members, or your managers can be a good people who can, make some suggestions how you can be a better version of that part of it, right? But otherwise, you're doing a great work, but you are not showing up your work and not advertising or advocating your work. It's little issue, I would say, because you need to present yourself if you really want it to be climbing up the ladder.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a missed opportunity if you don't advertise for work, and if you don't advertise for all the impact that you've brought in. Absolutely love that. So just a moment back, we were talking about mentorship, and how does a mentee approach mentorship, and what should they have figured out before they go looking for a mentor. So I would love to know your personal insight into this. So how has mentorship helped you in your career journey? And let's say when you were starting out at ServiceNow or one of your previous organizations as well. So how did you figure out that you needed a mentor, and how has this mentor, or this entire circle of mentorship impacted where you are currently at? We'd love to know more about that.
Yeah, I can answer that one. I think it's been really important, I guess, in my career, especially at sort of pivotal moments when you're trying to make decisions about career direction potentially and roles. It's really nice to have advice from someone, or in challenging times when you're stuck on an issue or something. It's really nice to be able to bounce ideas off someone, and not to go to them for solutions, but often just to hear what you're thinking, hear what your plan is. Because I think an important distinction to understand for mentors is they're not always there to provide answers. Sometimes it can just be a sounding board for you to sort of concrete in your mind your plan of what you're doing, just to say, but that sounds fine. What you're doing sounds like the right thing to do. They may not be able to say, no, do this, do that. They're not there to tell you exactly how to do stuff. It really can just be a sounding board, which again just goes to that confidence piece, that sometimes you may just need someone to listen, understand what you're doing, understand the problem and what you're going to do about it, and just say, what, you're on the right track, you're doing the right thing.
Love that. Prajwala, anything you'd like to add here?
Yeah, I think I learned this over a period of time that, when you are in a career juncture where you really need to evaluate yourself where you are exactly, and if you feel like you got stuck, you wanted somebody to listen to you and who not necessarily can resolve your problem, can give the advice. That's where I started looking mentors. But I wanted to have a very clear agenda that, what advices am I looking for? But am I missing something? Do I need to correct anything? Do I need to act upon something? Is where I started looking forward for mentors. This is a time investment from others, and you always have to figure out right people who are ready to invest in your career path journey.
Yeah, love that. So we have a question from Ellen. So Ellen asks, as managers, how do you identify people in your team who lack confidence, however have potentials, and how do you help them?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Obviously, especially when you're managing a bigger team, it is hard. So you can generally gauge. There's people. Like one team that I've managed in the past, all of them have been particularly quiet. So as in team meetings, they're not the most vocal team, and but I think the ways you can overcome that is obviously, everyone in a team has potential, and you can see by the way they're doing in their roles, if they're meeting the expectations of that role, etc., and delivering on the outcomes. But I think it's really important to sort of, especially in meeting environments, etc., to try and directly ask people for their input, because they may not be confident in speaking up. You may have people that are much more outgoing, much more vocal, that will always sort of dominate conversations, because either they think they know more, or are a lot more confident in a group to sort of speak up. I think it's really important to sort of direct questions and conversations to people, to ask for their input directly, just to encourage them to participate. I think the more you do that over time, the more confident they get in speaking up in a group and become more collaborative in that group as well.
Thank you so much, Nick. Prajwala, your take on this?
Yeah, so when you're working as part of a team, the fact is that people come with the different strengths and skills. We need to understand that. And we need to open the channel, I think, as a manager, to have those transparent conversations. If you are seeing a potential of a person, but somewhere lacking the confidence, I think you need to have those conversations and build that kind of a trust relationship where you can openly talk about these kind of things and identifying the gap and those career plans in the place where a person can overcome, achieving a more reliable goals for themselves, and then help them overcoming those kind of issues. So it's very important as a manager to understand, have those conversations, have plans in the place so that the person can be performing better.
I also think
Yeah.
that it's been a bit
Mhm.
challenging with remote working as well.
Yeah.
When you're not in the same room, same meeting room anymore, it's hard to judge. And often with Zoom, people's screens are off. It's hard to judge their facial expressions, whether they're sort of not engaged in the conversation or etc. So that also adds a lot of challenges, I think, being remote. So I think the more you can involve people directly, the better.
Absolutely, and yeah, I completely agree to the fact that, the remote working culture, I mean, there are a million pros to that, but yeah, this is absolutely one of the little cons there out there.
Yeah.
All right. So, moving on and addressing the biggest issue in the room, and as well as, the tech sector as well, gender equity. So basically, where do you think the tech industry stands when it comes to gender equity? Do you tend to see women in decision-making positions? And how, in your opinion, you have been in this industry for a few years now, how do you see the evolution, and how do you see the evolution in terms of gender equity in the past couple of years? How is ServiceNow making strides in this domain, and what can we do better? What can corporates, what can we as participants in the corporate workforce do better to make this gender disparity a thing of the past?
I can start with that.
Absolutely.
So women are clearly minority in the STEM workforce. However, from last few years, I think that trend is slightly improved. We look at 2018, it's been 26% in the tech industry, the women workforce, and it's slightly increased to 28% in 2022. But overall, if you look at the gains, tech companies, it's a 42%. But however, if you see the trajectory of a career growth, women who are moving into the board level is only 2%. So which means that, there is very less, place that, women are occupying in those areas. But I think a lot of IT organizations changing and bringing a lot of programs into consideration to the hiring, to processes, and investing in a career growth for women and all of that, right? I would say, the situation is improving, but as far as we are aware of, the facts and the reasons for these kind of issues, and we have good programs coming in organizations, okay to progress. And I'm sure that at one point of time, probably these numbers would go high.
Yeah, love that. Nick, anything you would like to add here?
Yeah, I think I agree with pretty much everything she said. I think it is a very slow progress. I think ServiceNow, certainly the organization that I work, I think there is a really good representation. But one thing I do notice is when we're hiring, we don't see a lot of women applying for the roles, which is disappointing. It'd be great to see more coming through to provide that diversity and then the quality that comes through. I think ServiceNow does a great job at educating so that we're making that hiring process fairer, and hopefully the promotion process fairer as well in terms of unbiased. So there is a lot of training that goes on in terms of unconscious bias and sort of other biases as well, which I think is really important. But yeah, I think even before that, it would be great in the schools, for example, to make sure that women are exposed to the STEM areas, those technology areas, to make sure that if they're interested in it, they're passionate enough to follow it through and get a job in that sort of area as well. So as she said, it is slow progress, but hopefully it will improve over time.
Got it. So touching on this topic, we have a question from Jessica. So Jessica, the question that she has is, what can we do to create a space for women in the industry, especially as junior professionals who don't have many opportunities to address this problem? So Jessica is a junior professional. She is in the early stages of her career. And, what can people in her capacity, or, people who are in the early stages of the career, what can they do better to, address this issue of gender equity and gender parity?
I would like to add a few things there, like educate yourself first of all, right? Okay. Whether it's the reality where you stand today, what the numbers look like, and what opportunities do you have within your organization. That kind of education is very important to know. Right. And you need to figure out the opportunities around you where you have a space to talk about it, or it can suggest some solutions around it. Like, you are into it. This is a known problem for decades, and there are sources out available, and there are opportunities coming over everywhere, and you need to leverage it. That's how I see it.
That's so great, Prajwala. Nick, anything you have to add here?
Yeah, not too much, I guess. Yeah, understanding do your research and understand exactly where you stand in terms of to make sure you understand exactly what the value you are and what's out there. But I think, in terms of what you can do directly, if there's other people in the same boat, maybe speak to them. If there's a little community that you could speak to and vocalize some of the issues, but also speak to HR as well. We have a great HR organization at ServiceNow. I would like to think that people were confident enough to speak to them as well if they were not feeling like they were being heard in their organization as well.
And just want to add another point on the same note is, like, at ServiceNow, I like this one thing. We constantly talk about these kind of programs and the policies that we have, right? It is just not that in one particular period of time we touch base on these things and we just leave it. I think HR has been fantastically doing it. How do we ensure that we are reassuring that we are practicing it? And creating a new program for all of them, let's be inclusive programs, or creating a support network system or communities that makes that, like, there are n number of areas where you can look forward and get into communities of people who are in a similar kind of a situation and talk about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Prajwala and Nick, for those wonderful nuggets of wisdom on this topic. So for all of our participants here, we are moving into the last stretch of our session. We have close to 10 to 11 minutes left. So if you have any questions, anything that you want to talk about to our speakers, this is the time. Just drop them in the chat. And I have a couple of questions of yours. So just make sure that, you're making the best of this opportunity, and, you're getting everything, all the queries that you have answered by our speakers. So with that being said, I'll move to a couple of questions now. So I have a question from one of our participants. How would you suggest identifying the company's needs to understand, in which areas we might be able to grow the most? So how do you advise speaking about our growth ambitions with our managers? Would you like to take it, Nick?
Yeah, sure. So I think ServiceNow does a really good job of sort of outlining the vision and the goals, I guess, from the top down. So our CEO, Perumbudur, always at the start of the year is very clear on what his top priorities are and the goals. And that really helps us sort of filter down to all the organizations, to all the levels, whether that be engineering or support, what our goals will be that will roll up and contribute to that as well. So I think that's really important. But sort of aligning your personal development plan, I think, is really important with that. And that to me is really where you do all of the goal setting, where you want to be, where you want to end up, and aligning that with your manager to make sure that he understands what your aspirations are, what you're going to deliver for that year and beyond. And then you can help look at opportunities that will help you get towards that and contribute towards that. And that may not be in the same role you are now. Your aspirations may be outside that role, but your manager should be willing to say, well, okay, well, let's work towards that. You can still be effective in your role and work towards your next one at the same time. So lots of opportunities there if you're willing to put the time into working on your development plan as well. The one thing I will say about that, which we touched on a bit before, but no one is ever going to be invested in your career as much as you are. So you have to take the time to spend doing these things, like putting a career development plan together, because you will be surprised how many people don't do it. It is a very small percentage of people that actually spend the time doing it, but it will pay off. It's a tangible method of revisiting every couple of months to say, how this is what I said I was going to do at the start of the year. How am I tracking against it? And just keeping yourself honest in terms of how you're working towards it.
Absolutely. Prajwala, anything you'd like to add there?
Yeah, we always ensure that our goals at the organization level and the P4 level and the the rest of the verticals are aligned, and it's structurally aligned. We have the structure of aligning our goals towards organizational goals, and every quarter we take a look at it. Every quarter we evaluate it, how our goals are aligned with the company and the business and our customer needs, all of that. And I think we do have this, a structure of how we align our goals in terms of performing our job and responsibilities, and how do I embed my aspirations, career aspirations into it, right? And ServiceNow always invest in trainings and sponsorship and all of that stuff. It always tries to see the potential of the person and invest in their career path journey.
Yeah, absolutely love that. So I'll just quickly move through, since we have a couple of participant questions left, and we have just about 7 to 8 minutes now. So yeah, I'll just go through any questions. So I love this next question, because we always have very conflicting opinions, myriad of opinions when it comes to managers. So basically, how do you deal with situations when you know that your direct manager is sabotaging your efforts to be recognized by assigning you to wasteful tasks? So how do you get out of that situation?
You want to go first, Prajwala?
Yeah, I don't think that there is anything, called out as a wasteful. Probably the advantage or benefits out of that are, how do you assess, do you see it in the near future or far future? That's how I look at it. No effort is wasteful, I would say, but probably you need to see that, benefits out of where you are investing today.
Nick, your opinion?
Yes, it's the same. I think with any role, there's always some level of what I call grind that has to be done in any role. And it may not be glorious work, but it still needs to be done. But I would just be honest with your manager and say, look, I've mastered these tasks. It's not a challenge for me. What other challenging work can I do? And always be looking for opportunities. And if there are opportunities that are going to other people, don't be afraid to ask the question. Could I have the next one? That person's done this and this. Can I do the next one? You've just got to be vocal about it. But yeah, unfortunately, there will always be some level of grind work that has to be done.
Absolutely love that. So we have another question, and the rest of the question that I have, they touch around opportunities at ServiceNow and interviewing and all of those stuff. So the first question is, does ServiceNow hire across geographical areas for the featured jobs? For example, in ServiceNow, can somebody work for Australia or India jobs from the US? And if yes, are there any potentials to learn new languages? So would you like to take that?
Wow, so that's actually a really challenging one. So I'll talk about the support organization, because that's what I work in. So the way we're structured, we actually employ generally in the regions that we are doing the work. So we're structured. So we're in 4 regions. We're in Europe, the US, Australia, and Hyderabad. So generally, if we're hiring for a role in Hyderabad or in India, it'll be in Hyderabad, or more so now in remote locations as well. So if we needed a person in EMEA, we would hire in Europe as well. The opportunities to learn a language, that's not something we generally offer, although we do provide language support. But generally, we're looking for people who already speak those languages. But one thing we do provide at ServiceNow for everyone in the organization is access to Udemy. So there's nothing to say that you can't join the organization and learn the language on the fly and then apply for one of those roles. But it's not a training we provide per se.
Absolutely. Prajwala, anything to add there?
Yeah, in my experience, I've seen that there are cross-region hires happening based on the importance and the priority of the role and the skill set that it is required. But this is totally a TA question. I think my TA team is answering in the chat there.
Absolutely. I have another question which is related to career breaks. So the participant is trying to get back to the tech workplace after a 2-year gap. How can they showcase the value they added to their previous employers in their resume, and how can they showcase that during the interview stage?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So during the CV, it's very difficult. Obviously, that's only a very brief snapshot of someone. But obviously, just give good examples of work that you've done on projects that you've worked on, etc., and try and make it as relevant to the role, the advertised role, as possible. In the interview, obviously, the advice there would just be your authentic self. As I said, we're never going to find that person that ticks every box. We're looking for a certain type of person, someone that's really passionate about what they do, willing to learn, and that they're just going to pick up whatever challenge you give them. They're going to give it 100% and learn on the job as well. Just in the interview, as I said, be your authentic self. Be honest if you don't know the answer to a question. And one of the things, because we do a technical interview as well as a people sort of interview as well at ServiceNow, one of the things I always tell people for that question is I don't expect anyone to get 100%. That's not what we're doing it for. It's really just to see how you answer those questions and how you think and how you apply logic to those questions. So yeah, just be confident, be yourself, and give real concrete examples of what work you've done at other organizations. Just be really specific. Don't be vague in the examples. Just be honest and truthful. It goes back to that point about being confident, not bragging. Unfortunately, that's one of the few times where you really do need to sell yourself and talk about all the success you've had.
Thank you so much, Nick. And so we are in the last leg of the session, and we have an amazing rapid fire for the team. And so this last section, this last proportion of the session is called Getting Real with the Team. And we'll move forward, and I believe the speakers have answered the questions, but we'll ask again, and we'll get a more deeper insight into that. So getting real with the team of ServiceNow here, and how would you describe the culture in one word? Prajwala and Nick, tell us more about that, and just explain it a little bit. So yeah.
Sure, I would say
Oh, you go.
Go on.
Sorry.
Please go
You
on.
go first. It's very hard to describe in one word. I really struggled to answer that in one word. I would say engaging, but also, as I said before, it's really hard to describe the passion that people have for when you work at ServiceNow. It really is, what do they say, drinking the Kool-Aid, that you sort of really get engaged in the product and everything that you're sort of delivering for customers. So that's why I was put engaging there.
Over to you, Prajwala.
Yeah, I would say it's a value or belief that you try to cultivate in your day-to-day life, and then you try to enhance your behavior, which would definitely elevate you as a person and bring what you are.
Got it. Since we're at the last minute, so I'll change the last question a little bit. So if you were interviewing for ServiceNow right now, let's say, what would be your tip to that version of yourself? Rapid fire. Prajwala, you go first.
Yeah, I would say try understanding the expectations from the role that you are applying for, right? And try to relate it with your experience and be realistic. Give some examples, as Nick said previously, stick to reality and give better examples and talk about the benefits or advantages that has added into the business and sell your skills.
Over to you, Nick.
Yeah, I'll just say, be yourself, be confident, try and overcome those nerves about talking about yourself, which a lot of people have. It's not a pleasant, never pleasant to sort of try and sell yourself to someone else. But you've just got to overcome that for that 1 hour of your day during the interview and just get it done. But the other thing I would say is ask lots of questions. For me, one of the things I really love when I interview people is them asking me questions. It's great for them to get a better understanding, not only the role, what I do, what we do, just to get it, because all they've seen so far is just, a bit of paper that says what the role does. It's great for them to ask as many questions as they can, and nothing's off the table. They can ask whatever they want. And we'll try and be as honest as you can in those answers.
Thank you so much, Nick and Prajwala. So, all right, and we have hit the clock here. Thank you so much, Nick and Prajwala, for this wonderful session. You've given a lot of nuggets of wisdom out there, and for all of our participants, I believe they have a lot of takeaways to learn from, and they got an inside peek of what your life is at ServiceNow, and why do you love the job that you have? So with that being said, for everyone who is tuned in, make sure to follow ServiceNow on Powerfly and get on top of all the job opportunities and all the new and upcoming roles that they have. Thank you so much, Nick and Prajwala. It was wonderful chatting with you, and we look forward to hosting you in the future as well.